Thank you all so much for coming. This is the second iteration of this Creative Showcase series here at Index, and it's really awesome to have you all come on a weekday after work. We have 5 really awesome and different presenters for you today, and I'm really excited for you to see their work. Each presentation will be 20 seconds and 20 slides, so this is really quick fire just to get a quick sense of someone's project. And at the end, we'll have a time for a few questions after each presentation, so keep those in your head. Without further ado, we're just going to jump right in and get started with our first presenter.
Okay, can you guys hear me like this? Okay, that's too loud. This is fine, right?
Test. Oh, sick. All right. How's it going? Good to see y'all. Thanks for coming. Shout out Index for hosting, Katie for organizing, and thank you all for coming. My name is Martin Flores, and whenever you're ready. All right. I want you to think of a time when your identity was challenged, an event where the ground shifted under your feet, where time and space made a little less sense. Maybe you moved somewhere new and left elsewhere behind. Maybe a new person came into your life or lost someone important. That begs the question, who are you now? Anthropologists name this experience liminality, where you lost your past self but haven't arrived at your new self. Remember when you finished your schoolwork, handed in that last assignment, but hadn't officially graduated yet? You're both a student and a graduate. But you're neither at the same time. The campus no longer serves you, nor you it, yet here you are. This is what my thesis was about. I did my grad program in graphic design at MICA. We were required to create an exhibition space, so I made a booth with like an adjoining wall. I titled it, "I'm Going Through Something." The exhibition space acted as an explainer for liminality with a photo opportunity in the middle booth. So you'd like follow it along, learn about liminality, come into the photo booth, take a picture, and like go on your way. But there were those that wanted more. And so there was a little section at the end with a map and cards. So you'd pick one up, and the cards held directions to a second location. So upon taking a card, participants were instructed to leave the gallery, head into the elevator. Yeah, tight. All right. Head into the elevator, reach the top floor, walk along the corridor, go down a hallway, arrive at a nondescript door with a sign telling you that you've made it to the right place. Upon opening the door, you reveal part 2, an installation of posters hidden away in a fire escape stairwell, lit only by utilitarian fluorescent lighting, the overlapping posters creating shadows on top of one another. Entering the space, you quickly realize 2 things. This might be larger than you originally thought. This is a LiDAR scan of the whole installation. The second thing you realize is that the door you just came through locks from the outside, and you cannot exit from the same way you came through. Luckily, the signage reminds you that you are okay, and so often in life, the only way out is through. This is where the adventure begins. The first wall acts as a welcome shrine, explaining that this is a dialogue. You can head down the stairs, take in what you can, leave what you don't need behind, and make your own journey in this space. So the stairwell is broken up into 3 sections, pre, intra, and post. First, preliminality, it's the death of the pre-ritual self, the call to adventure, crossing of the threshold. Second is intraliminality, where you sacrifice your old life for your new life. Third is post-liminality. It's the final stage. It's where liminality collapses. You enter the old world as a new being. In the preliminality section, participants are asked to think about their current life and position in life. To help with the heaviness and solemnity, there are posters like, shit, what goes around comes around, and taking stock of yourself with like a little stock going down. There's also an 800 number that should have been a 555 number so that it wouldn't connect anything, but it actually calls a business, so please don't call it because people did. It's for like a health company or something, but it just made it more weird and liminal. So at this point, the posters start to converge into more of a singular narrative with some random asides thrown in. So to quote, there comes a time where you pass the point of no return. It's called crossing the threshold. You take a leap into the unknown. Your past self is gone, but your new self isn't here yet. What is this strange feeling? You try to put it into words. It comes out as, I'm going through something. Dramatic pause. It's a realm where things don't make sense. You've left, but you haven't arrived. It's terrifying yet liberating. You see, nature abhors a vacuum. Something will fill the void. You get to choose what. as scary as it seems, this is the most freedom you'll have. Anything can happen here. Then, just as it begins, it comes to an abrupt, sudden full stop. You return home, changed but the same. The world under new eyes, the self open under new management. Suddenly, everything is different. The end. Thanks. Also, Q&A time. I do have my thesis book here if anybody wants to check it out after the event. It's fun. It's one of one. Well, no. The school has one, so it's two of one, but still.
Were there like either installations or, for example, this reminds me a lot of like different video games where you like see different things on the wall and you slowly like encounter different messages that inspired you? Like, what do you see like the posters as kind of being in conversation with?
I mean, I was inspired by a lot of like flyer work and like street art growing up as a kid. This in conversation. Honestly, I did feel like a little bit like how we experience digital space now, of just like tab, 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 pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up. And like this was also a way for me to explain how my brain is, because I'm just like, oh, I have this thought, but this thought, and like this one says this, but that one like, don't look here, turn around, but like please go down the stairs. But it's okay, it's fine, it's fine. You're okay. The door locks, but don't worry about it. Like, so it was kind of like that brain trying to apply myself in like a installation space and like narrative structure. I took a lot of there's a lot of installation work I like Meow Wolf specifically. Yeah. So, who wants to go first? Okay. I used to have a job at a company called Saros, and I was on the editorial team, and we used to make like interactive like web things, and I always wanted to do like kind of going through a scrolling thing, but like narratively. And I was like, oh, I like street art. Like when I got to graduate school finally, I was like, I like street art. Why don't I just like start doing this in like spaces? A friend actually pointed this stairwell out to me, and I started doing like work in there. And I really liked, I don't know if anyone's familiar with like Discordianism, but they had this like thing called Postergasm where they would make like really weird flyers. And I was like, oh, I want like this, but like an ARG. And I really liked like Situationist and like, I don't know, Improv Everywhere, shout out from the 2000s. All these things like boiled together into like this mess. Yeah, I don't know if that answers anything. Okay. Hit me.
How many different posters did you make?
Good question. I don't know because I didn't count, but I counted the hours it took me to install this in the stairwell. It was like 8.5 hours of just like doing it in one day, just like one shift. And then it took me like 2 hours to take it all down. I have the posters at home. So if you will have a party or an empty stairwell and you're just like, oh, I need my guests to be confused, hit me up. Shout out. I think most people just took the card and didn't read it. And when they got home, they're like, wait, what? And they probably threw it out. Yeah, some people approached me afterwards and they were like, oh, actually that meant a lot to me. And I was like, oh my God, that means a lot. And then I just didn't know how to have a conversation about it. I was like, thanks. And like turned around. So that's why I'm doing this. Part of it, I wanted. It's some of these things just came together at the same time. Like we had a workshop in the beginning of the semester to like, I don't know, just try things, and I tried out an installation earlier, like a different type of installation, but similar aesthetic in that stairwell. And I liked how the lighting was affecting like the posters and like seeing the dark outlines. I did edit the photos a little bit, but like when you photograph there, it's actually really difficult because some of the your camera settings like are really tricky there. Like natural light is so much easier to shoot in versus like a stairwell. The stairwell is actually decently lit. It's for emergencies. I had to get permission to like put stuff in there, but it was a lot. There's a lot of Photoshop to like make things a little bit look dramatic, but like all the photos I took, they looked too bright or too dark, and like you could still see the drama when you're there in person, but like it's hard to convey. So this is my best try at trying to do that because it's both like easy to see but also dramatic. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So the gallery space is actually where people are going to go to see the thesis because all the other, like everybody in my class had thesis exhibitions around the space. And so one of my teachers actually told me not to do this and I was like, no, like, I'm just going to, like, oops. But it's like I don't know, it's like a message of like, it's a lesson for me to like, just do what you want, sort of thing. So like, yeah, people just had to start from the exhibition space, and I was like trying to see how many people I could pull out anyway. I know it was going to be like a gargantuan and almost impossible task, but like people went still, so I was proud of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was like a lot of leaps of faith. Like I was nervous about printing it all out because we share the printers. We have like two giant plotters, but like I just went ahead and did it, and like I don't know, I just kind of just dove into the dark, hoping for the best. We managed to figure it out. The one thing that almost broke me was like trying to attach them to the wall. Like I was using packing tape at first, and then I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. It's not holding. It's too heavy. And then someone's like, just use command strips. I was like, they won't work. And he's like, have you tried them? I was like, no. And then I did that. And then command strips are amazing. Yeah. So I had a buddy who was like going up and down the stairs for like a RESO thing. Because the RESO labs were downstairs. So he'd like go down to use the RESO thing and then like go back to his studio to fix stuff. And so he like was using it all the time, and he realized that like, oh, this door locks, and he told me about it. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting like thing. How can I react to the space of like? It's also just very funny if you just like lock something, you're like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Man. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it just made me more brave to take more like chances like this and like try to figure out doing longer term projects pretty much. Yeah. Mhm. Uh, yeah. So in my work, I've always like tried to be funny. They just comes out of me of just like writing dumb things or slogans because of my street art like inspiration, looking at stuff like Banksy and a lot of this. I had an awakening when I watched like a Jeff McFetridge talk where he like would write something and then just like put a graphic next to it and then see how many times he could like illustrate to it. And I started doing that. That's why I chose like sort of the fonts I did and like just kept everything black and white because I'm like, oh, let's keep this quick, let's move, and just like get ideas out because they're fresher that way. Yeah, and also just printing black and white's easier. Hi, Hannah. Like 3 or 4 times probably. I had like a bunch of breakdowns and yeah, and you know, I'm glad it worked out. But even if it didn't, it would still teach me something. So I'm pretty happy for the experience. Yeah, actually one of the slides is like the layout of it. And so like it was trying to figure. Originally, the whole thing was supposed to be like. I originally had the idea to do like a lyric video sort of thing of just like play a song and then like read the lyrics as you go down the stairwell. It didn't interest me that like I made it and then I was like this is I don't know, it just hits like it doesn't hit as hard as what I want to make. So, but it inspired like the rest what you see now. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Can I start now? Okay. Hello, nice to meet. Hello, nice to meet you, everyone. And I'm Donna. I'm a creative technologist, and tonight I'm gonna show you my soft circuits. So to tell a little bit about me, so I'm a creative technologist and a UX designer. So I'm currently in Parsons MFA Design and Technology program. So like in school, I'm more of a creative technologist, and professionally, I'm a UX designer, like which they're really different, that I'm doing both. So today I'm gonna talk about what soft circuit is and kind of introduce about my soft circuit examples and some stories about my workshops that I did. So first off, what is a soft circuit? So soft circuits refer to circuits that are made with soft materials such as fabric, or it can also include like papers, conductive thread, copper tape, and other like soft materials. So the art of soft circuitry is that soft circuits are in the intersection of technology, art, and craft. So like what's different from like PCB board circuits, soft circuits are like you're basically crafting your own circuits by your hand. So like there are a variety of materials you can use to make soft circuits. So first off, conductive thread is a great starting material that you can sew on literally almost any type of fabric. And there are other cool supplies that you can find on Adafruit or Lilypad, such as sewable battery holders and like some sensors that you can sew on fabric. So now I'm gonna show you my soft circuits that I made throughout the past few months, which includes my interactive gloves and a tactile speaker, some sensors, and some switches that I made. So first off, LightTud is a pair of interactive gloves that light up when you either put your fingertips together or your wrist together. So like I kind of made it to highlight the people's hand gestures with lights. And so I made it with felt, conductive thread, and a battery holder with LEDs. And this is a forest-themed tactile speaker. So like the speaker is this small square that is sewn with copper thread. And these tactile craft is to give a little bit of tactile experience in a forest, such as like bush and leaves and some pebbles. And this is an analog tilt sensor that I made. So the title is Hungry Herbivores. So basically these herbivores are so hungry that if you put this grass onto their tongues, their eyes will beam in red. Yeah. I really love this piece. Oh, and this is a fish and the cat switch. So the fish is basically the switch. On the back side of the fish's tail, there's another side of the metal button that can be put onto the cat's paw. So like if you put the fish onto the cat's paw, the cat's eyes will beam in blue. And people loved it. Oh yeah. And this is a heart-shaped pressure sensor with an LED that I sewed on flexible PCB. So I made it with this material called Velostat, which enables you to sense like pressure. Like if you press it hard, you can lower the resistance to light up the LED. And then this is a moon switch with lighting house that I made. So like this moon is the switch, and like if you put the moon onto the empty hole here, which is not visible right now, it closes the circuits to light up the house. Oh, the LED on the house. And this is a lighting book cover. So like basically, if you close the cover, these LEDs light up in blue and green. So I made it with felt and like conductive thread and lily pad supplies, the battery holders and lily pad LEDs. And now I'm gonna tell you a little bit of my past workshops and an upcoming workshop about soft circuitry. So my first workshop in New York City was teaching people how to make LightTUD and NYC resistors. It's a makerspace in Brooklyn. So I taught it was a hands-on workshop to teach people how to make interactive gloves for like 2 hours and a half. And I had another collaboration with High School of Fashion Industries, software development program, like K-10th graders. So I invited them to our Parsons campus and I taught them how to make a pair of interactive gloves. And I also visited their school to do some troubleshooting because like the teacher told me that some of the students' circuits were not working. So yeah. And then I did another guest lecture, an online guest lecture for SFK International Art Education. So like it was for an online wearable design class one of my professors was doing. So I kind of hopped in as a guest lecturer to teach them how to make a simple paper circuit with Arduino, and like gave a short lecture about soft circuitry as well. So and this is a new workshop that I made during the last semester. So like I made this beginner-friendly soft circuit workshop that includes like a list of materials and a workbook that includes the basic skill basic circuitry and basic craft skills that you can integrate to make your own soft circuit. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to find a place or organization to teach my workshop. And yeah, today I presented myself as a creative technologist, and if you are interested in soft circuits, or if you're interested in inviting me as a guest lecturer or something related to soft circuits, please reach out to me. Yeah, like any questions? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Who wants it? Rock, scissors, paper, and the winner goes first. No? Oh yeah. So like, if you put an electromagnet under the surface under the surface of the copper thread, and you connect the speaker to a device, it can be your phone or a laptop. You just play the music, and the sound will come out from the thread. Like it vibrates and makes the sound. Like it does not work as a JBL speaker. But the interesting point is that you are making a speaker with a piece of fabric and a copper thread and using a little electromagnet under it. Yeah. Yes. Oh. Mhm. Oh yeah, I'm so happy to answer that. So like right now I'm in grad school and design and technology program, and before my master's degree, I really loved crafting, but I didn't really have a lot of background in technology. And as I went to grad school and picked up more like circuitry and technology skills, I got fascinated in like merging my craft background and the technology that I picked up from school. So that's how I got into soft circuitry. And mostly I get inspired from like really random stuff. Like for example, for the, what was that? Like the cat Cat and the Fish and the Hungry Herbivores. Like I got inspired from. I don't even remember the title of the video, but like just I was binge watching YouTube Shorts and I saw some like Hungry Herbivore video and like, oh, I want to make it into a analog till sensor. And for the cats, like I also watch a lot of cat videos, like cats playing, going crazy with like fish-shaped toys and stuff like that. So like I get inspirations from like really random stuff. Like yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, those are my favorites. Like fabric, embroidery. So like my favorite mediums are, fabric, embroidery, like using soft materials, paper as well. Paper, fabric. Those are my favorite mediums when I craft things. Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah. So I try to integrate Touch Designer to my gloves to, kind of to make my gloves play a role as a microcontroller or something. But I face a lot of technical issues when I was picking up Touch Designer. So I ended up not making anything with it, but I tried to make something. But I tried to integrate it with Touch Designer. Yeah, I tried to integrate my gloves as a microcontroller to, kind of make interactive graphics and stuff. Like maybe I could try it in the upcoming fall semester. Yeah. Okay.
I love your work. It's so fun.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you were to take a workshop with you. You mentioned it was like 2.5 hours. How does that like? What is the cadence of how you get from start to finish?
Well, actually, the workshop at NYC Resistors, wow, 2 hour and a half was never enough. Actually, only 2 people completed their gloves during the session. I felt so sorry for them. So, so like my plan was to like 20 minutes of basic circuitry, like not lecture, like basic circuit, 20 minutes of basic circuitry, and like then hop right on to the hands-on making session for the rest of 2 hours. But like if I were to do it again, I think I would need at least 3 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so like. Who's that? Oh yeah, cause I think I never heard of. Oh. Wow. Hmm. Like mine has nothing to do with music, but like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, just please tell me after the session. Like, I would love to get to learn it, and like, yeah.
Have you ever brought sort of the circuitry into like household items or like plushies, stuff like that, or ever crossed your mind to sort of
Hmm.
do like a house-ish project, like outside of just smaller rooms?
Maybe from the examples I introduced, the book cover can be an example. A book cover, and maybe the speaker. You use speakers at home, but I won't really listen to music with that speaker. But like plushies and the cat with a fish. That's type of a plushie. And yeah, like but that's a really good question. I think I never really intended to make something like a household object with soft circuits. I I always aim to make like, okay, I'm gonna make a sensor, or like I'm gonna make a speaker, I'm gonna make a switch. But like, yeah, why not? You can also make a random cushion that when you sit on it, it will light in various colors. But I've never tried that. But like, I think I can try that during the summer, maybe. Like, thank you for mentioning that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, my name is Albert. I should have used the template, didn't realize that that was, so apologies for this. My name's Albert. I'm a design lead at Squarespace here in New York. And here's where you can find my Instagram and website. I have been in New York for 10 years. And in that time, on the next slide, you'll see that I've worked at a couple of different places. My background's in brand design. So I've worked at the Creative Lab, Wolf Olin, Selman, RPA, and most recently, I've also taught design at the School of Visual Arts as an adjunct professor. And the work that I'll be sharing today largely revolves around my time at Squarespace. So I've been there for 4.5 years, which is the longest I've been anywhere, which is kind of like it's insane for a creative person. And the work that we do kind of runs the gamut. So it's everything from website templates, which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, as well as campaigns. We sponsored the Knicks, product design, UI, as well as Super Bowl spots that take on a very kind of like filmic output, as well as traditional brand identity. So we are kind of we have a few subsidiaries. But the project that I'll be talking about today is something that has taken over the better part of the past 1.5 years of my life, which is called Squarespace Collection. And the long and short of it is we partner with someone who we feel like is an iconic creative partner to do whatever they want on our platform. And using those creative decisions, we publish a template, document it, and share it for anyone to use in the spirit of the democratization of design. We've worked with Bjork, Magnum Photos, Rick Rubin, and Jeff Koons. I've worked on these three, and today I'll be talking a little bit about the last two. So Rick Rubin and Jeff Koons. Here's a picture of Rick. You may know him as the author of The Creative Act, A Way of Being that came out, I believe, 2 years ago now, or a year ago. And most importantly, I think he's known as a creative person that has no technical ability. So he talks about how he's a vibe coder, which is very interesting in this day and age. And his claim to fame is working with like Jay-Z, the Beastie Boys, Lady Gaga, and as a kind of this dynamo producer. The work that he wanted to co-create with Squarespace included a website that housed all of his inspirations. So the really kind of interesting part about this process was when you landed on his website called Tetragrammaton, he wanted to be completely spare with no UI until you interacted with the art piece. And the content that populated the website included everything from artwork to photos on his camera roll, to his podcast of the same name, Tetragrammaton, poems, videos, and to this day it's still being added to as an archive. So here's a snapshot of how that came to be. And in turn, based on those creative decisions, we also made a template built on Squarespace that allowed people to kind of leverage some of those design decisions and build it for their own, which we called Transmission. And Rick was really interesting because while we were building this process, we realized that he had this podcast called Tetragrammaton, but he had no real brand. Again, he has never like made anything from his own kind of like creative process. It's always been in terms of like production, like working with another artist. And this was a really big leap of faith, I think, because while he didn't have his own brand, besides this podcast, it was a really great opportunity to kind of like work with someone and partner with someone who was obviously very talented in his own way to create something that felt very ownable to his own aesthetic. And we were able to create this brand identity that was a distilled version of Tetragrammaton, which he didn't want to mess with, but we created a shorthand that we then were able to leverage for kind of the promotional posters as well as the marketing materials that we use to publish the content. And the second collection, which is the most recent one, was with Jeff Koons. He's known for making these balloon dogs, balloon animals that are frankly everywhere in Spider-Man movies, knocked off in China on Temu, and has kind of made a living as a very successful living artist. And for the past 4 decades, his website has lived on jeffkoons.com, which is this 20-year-old archaic site. And it's been 40 years of just really bad UI, really bad kind of portfolio decisions. And so for this website, it was much more of a straightforward exercise creating jeffkoons.com to house all of his works in one place for the first time ever. And it spanned from 1980 to present day, every single one of his solo exhibitions, group exhibitions, every single piece of his artwork. And if you're familiar with his art, you know that it's a lot of different versions of similar things. And so there are more than 4,000 pieces of content that we ended up using, and we also created a website again so that people could follow that same sort of documentation format on Squarespace itself. The template was called Reflect, and we leveraged some of those creative decisions again for anyone to use. And in that same process, again, this is more of the same, just showing a different view of the template itself. We felt like it was really interesting because in working with someone that had such a crazy body of work, it was just interesting to see how, if he were to build something, how kind of like democratic he would want people who are, you know, familiar with his like art, his artwork in a fine art sense to engage with it on an interactive space. And we created a series of posters as well, just using the 3D renderings of his of some of his most famous pieces to promote the collection, and we called it the Complete Works, as again, it was the first time all of his stuff was able to be conglomerated on a site. And what was cool too is that we were able to go to his Hudson Yards studio and just witness him and his team at work, where they had, you know, they were like building renderings, creating like life-scale paintings, and it was really just a really cool way to see how someone whose work many of us are familiar with, but get to understand the process. Lastly, we created a promotional film with Man vs. Machine in London to basically inflate all of his, or the 3 different artworks that we promoted. And it takes place in this kind of like spare gallery space. And we basically brought these to life again to show how everything is together, living on jeffkoons.com. Thank you. It was very, you're talking about Jeff Koons, right? Or, they were wildly different. I think we also worked with Bjork and Magnum Photos too, which is slightly different, but I feel like when you work with artists, it can go so many different ways. I feel like people talk about talent and you kind of never know what to expect. Jeff Koons was amazing. His team is like extremely professional. It felt like he really knew the creative process in terms of like the way that we presented different directions, the way that he gave feedback, the way that they kind of articulated and were giving you know, critiques and notes. Like it all felt almost very similar to a client relationship, even though it was coming from Squarespace, which was in-house. Rick Rubin was, I don't know if anyone's like read the book or have like seen his interviews. He has like the most calm demeanor and voice. Like his podcast is, he like talks super slow. Working with him was very interesting because we went to his studio in Malibu, and when we were working on this project, it was just, it was like 2 of us and him. And so there was like no, even when we were recording this like video, all of these have a short film attached to it that documents the creative process. All of the camera crew for Rick Rubin was like hidden, and it really felt like it was just you were in the room with him, or just working on Zoom with him. And that was really interesting and a very kind of like non-traditional creative process, partially because of the design vernacular, like, or the lack of design like vernacular. But I think like it was interesting because he talks about how he just like describes his taste. I felt like it was very much working with someone that had a very clear vision, and we were just conduits in trying to bring that to life. Yeah.
If you had to repeat this process with any living artist,
Yes.
who would you want to be?
Oof, that's such a good question because collections is still happening. I feel like the Squarespace designer in me, like we have done so many musicians already, and we've also reached out to certain ones, and I'm like, oh, I really wish we could do that. I'm a huge basketball fan. I would love to work like Paige Buchers, like Caitlin Clark. I was a huge Kobe fan, like LeBron James would be incredible. So to answer your question, I think I'm pretty open. After working on 3, I feel like it's you have no idea what to expect, so that's tough. But we're always constantly like thinking like, who should the next person be? Yeah. Yeah. The pitch process is, we have a partnerships person at Squarespace, and she's incredible. She's pitched on every single one. The pitch process is usually like, from a corporate side through Squarespace, it's kind of like, what is a moment of culture that we might want to align with? I feel like Rick Rubin was pretty, like he had just published The Creative Act, and he already is sponsored by Squarespace through his podcast. And we have a lot of talent connections of people that we've worked with in the past. And so a lot of it is just trying to align with someone that really has something that they might want to say that we would be proud to co-author with on our platform. And the pitch process too is so much of logistics that are above my pay grade as a designer. It's like timelines. It's engaging with any kind of talent where you have to fit into their schedule, their sorts of kind of like other engagements. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Squarespace is interesting because as a tool, it's like a no-code platform, right? Like I feel like in this day and age, there's so many ways to get your ideas online. Squarespace has been around for 20 years, and it's known for like templates, right? Like you like choose from pre-selected ones, and within like a couple hours, you're able to create something that's not bad. I think when we partner with people for collections, it's very similar to a client agency relationship. And so in my background as a brand designer, it was very similar to creating different worlds. The only big difference is that everything that we make is using a tool that has limited expressiveness. And the whole idea of the campaign is to be able to prove to our audience, to their audience, that if they can make it with us on Squarespace, you might be inspired to do that on your own. And I think the second part of your question was like how it translates to sort of the traditional kind of like print creative process. I feel like the co-creation of the website is unique, and that's obviously a different medium. But as part of what we want to accomplish as designers through Squarespace, there are elements where we're like, oh, we should do an out-of-home to promote this, or we should do a social campaign to promote it. What we've latched onto is sort of like a video that promotes it, and that's what you saw with the Man vs. Machine stuff. With Rick Rubin, it was a more kind of editorial filmic piece where he's narrating our partnership together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rick Rubin is still uploading like every day. It's kind of crazy. He has a team, so there were people that help curate the artwork. There's people that help curate the videos. He has his own quotes that he posts on Instagram, and so there's a ton of people that are involved with the constant curation. Same thing with Jeff Koons. Like he released a piece of artwork at like following the Paris Olympics, and that was like published. So he also has a quite massive team that's just working on the artwork and also monitoring his digital presence. To answer the to answer the first part of your question, I feel like working in-house, there's bureaucracy, but for this particular project, so much of it is trusting our partners and making sure that we're creating something that we're both quite proud of to put out in the world. And I think in the case with Rick Rubin, it was really interesting because he had this like logo that his friend had drawn, Tetragrammaton, that's just kind of like using. And we were like, I don't know if this is like great to throw on a website. So we brought him on the journey of kind of evolving his brand. The thing that we landed on was just that T dot, which is a shorthand. But the way we sold it in and the way that we presented it was kind of, there's like stuff that I didn't include here. But what resonated with Rick was that the T was such a kind of like rational part of the editorial content, the poems and his quotes, and he loved how the dot represented kind of the universe of Tetragram itself. And so we had all these animations where the dot kind of like took on different behaviors, whether it was turning into sound waves, whether it was becoming a window for content, scaling to be more dynamic on social, on digital, and that was how we were able to kind of create this universe and ultimately get him to just not put that big block on his website. So, unshown, yeah.
I got props. Thank you. I practiced this with 2 hands free, so we'll see how it goes with 1 hand free. Testing? Okay, we're good. Hey, hi. Hi, I'm April Satarman. I'm an artist, designer, and writer. I'm a former architect. I'm actually not going to talk about my client work today, though. I'm going to go over my current work in progress, Working Artist board game. But first, I'm going to show you some of my past art practice for context. Things like these signs. As you can see, they are real. They're not photoshopped. All right, so in 2015, I started making side art projects under the then anonymous name Weird Side Projects. As a design professional, I felt like I could only share polished, portfolio-ready work. So I do these little experiments on weekends and evenings. And yes, again, real physical installations, not Photoshop. I'd put them around Seattle, not legal. They ended up taking off. And so, yeah, a lot of these little things. Moved to New York, started making longer works under my own name, narrative installations like the Museum of Almost Realities, a collection of artifacts from the life you might have had, or the Department of Emotional Labor, an immersive theater play about a soft bureaucracy where emotional labor is valued and protected and compensated. During the pandemic, I ended up making this piece. On the next slide. The End of the Day. It's a public audio installation that can only be played at sunset. It's about a moment many, many years from now when you're looking back and reflecting on a life well lived, about reclaiming a good future as a brave and hopeful act. Also a guerrilla art piece, not officially sanctioned, and probably the most earnest thing I have ever done. So if you've ever worked on a creative project and felt guilty about not finishing, this is a permission slip, the unfinished projects release form, that walks you through the process of emotionally letting go of an unfinished creative project, but still acknowledge that your work and effort matters. Instructions after filling out and signing: keep the bottom form, destroy the top form, you are now free. This all leads us to my current in-progress project, Working Artist Board Game, a competitive multiplayer board game about balancing the beauty and joy of making art and how it connects you with the world, contrasted with having to commodify your creative practice as to survive under capitalism. 3 to 6 players. Each player is keeping track of their prestige, money, morale, and artworks. Self-explanatory, though prestige is not just external markers of success, it also means finding the audience that truly connects with your work. There are 2 game loops on the board. The inner track is for making art. It's about the process of making, creative flow, creative block, research, experimentation. You complete this loop and you gain 1 artwork and 2 morale. The cards on this track they can be wonderful, like this one. Everything is beautiful, it all makes sense. You're in creative flow, move forward another 5 spaces. Or you can get stuck and frustrated in that same creative process and have to roll a certain number to get unblocked. The outer track is art business, so promoting and selling your finished art and trying to get money and prestige. Board spaces are things like semi-protectable institutions, grants, shows, day job for reliable money, but that might drain morale, etc. Chance cards are internal and external opportunities and setbacks. There's some cards. Comparison is the thief of joy. Look around. For every player with higher prestige than you, lose 1 morale. Crisis of faith. What is the point of making art on a swiftly burning planet? Roll a 3 to snap yourself out of it, otherwise lose 1 morale. The algorithm changes. Lose 1 prestige and 1 morale. The platform dissolves. Lose half of your existing prestige. Try to get some of it back. They're not all bad, okay? So for example, if a fan tells you how much they liked your work, you gain morale. However, if someone plagiarizes you or criticizes you in bad faith, it hurts. Morale is necessary as an artist for you to keep going. So here we go. No matter which loop you choose to go on, you always have to pay rent, which is 1 money. If morale or money goes to 0, you automatically lose. Certain opportunities are only available if you have enough prestige or artworks. We know this. And there are a lot more game mechanics related to selling work, creative partnerships, collaboration, etc. So how to win or defining success. At the beginning, each player chooses their own personal definition of success or win condition from preset values. Fame, high prestige; riches, high money; art practice, high artworks. Everyone starts with a dream. This dream might change. There are ways to optionally leave the game. For example, the sellout. You get a big pile of money, great health insurance, and the lingering potential of what might have been. The game ends for you. You neither win nor lose. Grab a large handful of money and take your piece off the board. Continue to watch everyone else play. You don't have to play this if you get it, but you can. If you roll doubles in the inner art making track, you get this little token, a fleeting moment of transcendence. It gives you no stats, no prestige, no money, no morale. It just saves you if your morale ever goes to 0, and you can have a lot of them. All right, so some game questions we're going through is what happens when you win? Because it's not over, right? What happens when you get what you thought you wanted? What is within your control under the rules of the game, capitalism? What is individual struggle versus systemic failure? And what's player competition and scarcity versus player cooperation? And does it have to be like this? So status right now is I wrote what is now 70% of the game in December 2023. In 2024, I started playtests and applying for funding, got shortlisted for funding, did not get the funding. 2025, back to playtesting. I'm focusing on game mechanics and player interactions, and I will start visual design and branding next year. As you can tell, this is very just game mechanic placeholder design at the moment. So the metagame is I'm applying for grants, residencies, and fellowships to develop the game. I also have to talk about and promote my work to let people know that it exists, and also to try and find an audience. And I'm expecting that it'll take at least 1 to 2 more years of development, and of course, I still have to pay my rent in the meantime. So some asks, come playtest. I have a private email list for updates and monthly playtest invites. I do not post all the in-progress stuff online. And I'd love to also chat to any of you about like, how are you also playing the game? And a reminder is, the real enemy is capitalism, not the player next to you, and support living artists. Thank you. And my little shameless plug, because you heard all that, I have all of these things for sale as well, including little mini versions of the signs. Anyway, come find me afterwards. Okay. Questions? Yes.
What are some games that you've had as like inspiration starting your career? Like the board looks like Monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, like Monopoly, also like the original version of Monopoly, are you familiar? The original version of Monopoly was called the Landlord's Game. It was actually an anti-landlord game. But then that woman got plagiarized. Some guy took credit for it, sold it to Parker Brothers, and she actually didn't get credit for it until like 10 years ago, and she's been long dead. So that is one. Also, Stanley Parable, honestly, so some just like video games. Also, because I come from like immersive, I've done a lot of like immersive theater, that type of player interaction. I've been trying to add some more of that into this game. Like for example, there's a space on the outer track called Dance Monkey Dance, and you have to cry, scream, or yell for attention for a full 30 seconds, or else you lose 1 prestige. Yeah, so stuff like that. So there's some like board game stuff, but also like some like interactive live things that I've been adding in that people have been responding really well to, so I'm gonna try to put some of that in there. Yeah. Yes. It's a coping mechanism for sure. Yeah, so as you can tell from like maybe a lot of the other stuff I showed, a lot of the stuff I make is coping mechanisms, because like this one was like, oh, I have too many creative projects, and I'm like, I feel guilty for not quote finishing them and putting them in a nice portfolio piece, and like, but like I wanted to acknowledge that it's important. And this one was also back when I was working full time, I'd be really frustrated because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this. And then times when I wasn't working full time, I'm like, wait, now I'm worrying about money, you know. So it is kind of this like, part of it is to like feel less guilty about like, yeah, if you make work, you do have to spend time talking about it and documenting and promoting it. And part of that is feels kind of icky to me, but also the flip side of that is just like finding people who actually like your work, and you can't do that without sharing it, right? So yeah, I just like, it's like, yeah, whenever something happens, like I got rejected from another thing, and I'm like, that's going in the game, you know? So and then I did get something, and I was like, oh, that feels good, like that is morale, and like, I think one of the things that's important to me is like morale is important to keep going, but morale doesn't pay rent, right? And like, and maybe something else pays rent but damages your morale or something, you know, and like these things are separate. And like even prestige is distinct enough, because it's like, just because you're famous doesn't mean you have the, you know, like it doesn't mean like this person is better or worse, it's just they have higher prestige, right? So. Cool. Thanks. Okay, all right, let's go down this way. Yeah, I think definitely using like a formal object that people already understand. Like even like the reference to Monopoly, I'm like, I think I have enough difference, but people understand in Monopoly there are rules, there are consequences, things happen between players. Versus, for example, if I made this a video game, in a video game, things can happen that you don't see the back end of. Like it's like, oh, this random thing could pop up in the middle of a game. Versus this one, it's like, yeah, you don't know what everything that's in the game, but it's all physically there. There are no surprises. Like, you know there's something in the deck that might pluck you out of obscurity and triple your prestige, or but all these things are like physically there for you. But yeah, I definitely, I think it's, I liked what you said earlier, but yeah, it's like definitely borrowing from some, like as a shortcut versus, for example, if I was like, here's a play about being a working artist, that's like I need the form, like the thing of like people understand what a board game does. So, and also like, again, it feels like a silly little game when you have to do it sometimes. Yeah, that is a great question. I have noticed within like the range of folks, folks that are like early career artists, they were like, oh, this will teach me what to do. I'm like, no. Versus like I have some folks in the middle, it's like, oh, they maybe have designed creative day job, but like their art on the side, and they really get that balance. And then some folks I know are like tenured artists, they're like, and we should burn the whole system down. And I was like, cool, that's their stake in it. With non-artists, I did have someone ask, they're like, oh, what about self-actualization? I'm like, that's not what the game's about. Or like, they didn't understand the transcendence, I feel like, but I think some of it is like, yeah, helping non-artists understand of like, this is why you should like, not plagiarize, or this is why you should like share this person's work even if you don't buy it, or like, you know why that art is so expensive? Because it took that person 10 years to get good enough at it, and like, yeah, so that's kind of where, yes. Oh, I have, yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like when you say humor, it's like I think humor is a good way of delivering the bad news, right? Like when I'm saying these, and like I'm intentionally not making the game like super traumatic. I'm just like reflecting things that like there's no health insurance scare in the game. You know, there's no like NEA funding gets cut. You know, like we already know these things exist. I don't need to add them in the game. But there are things of like you saw the sellout card, and we know this is very real. You know, and also you can take it or you don't have to. But like some people will. You know, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's definitely I really like making physical things, so that's definitely a big part of it. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Yeah. Resources, yeah. That is a great question because that's something I've been trying to like encourage in the later ones. But for example, I can't just like tell people to collaborate because that feels kind of weird. There was one I noticed in the last playtest. Someone ran out of money, and then another player was like, "Wait, can I help them out? And like, can I give them money to do this?" Or they noticed one player was struggling and getting stuck in this, and then there's a card for like a group show, and it's like pick someone else to like you put on a group show. Pick another player you like, put on a group show together. You both gain prestige. On the flip side, there is a plagiarism card where you can steal. You don't have to do it. If you get the card, you can choose to plagiarize from another player with lower prestige than you, take their unsold work, use it as your own. They will lose no morale, and also they will not trust you again, right? So this idea of like, what is the like players like? Are they naturally trying to be empathetic, or like do they see people like? I've seen people play very cooperatively, and I've also seen people play very cutthroat because they're like, oh, my win condition is this, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. So that is like that is something that I definitely want to explore more in the game, but also I don't want to be like, everything shouldn't be a card or a command. It's kind of like, well, what can we like nudge people towards that they would want to do for real in their communities, right? But yeah, there's definitely like, what is it like? Yeah, what the line between friendship and networking? So, yeah, or like resource, or like this person has higher prestige. I'm gonna like cozy up to them because then they can help me. You know, it's like yeah. Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Can we have another round of applause for amazing presenters? Please take a picture and follow all these amazing artists on Instagram and on their websites. They all have really cool work outside of just what you saw today. And thank you so much for coming to my second Creative Showcase event. I definitely want to keep doing these, so please let me know if you're interested in coming again or potentially presenting your work at the next one. Thank you.